Wait right here.
Where are you going?
I'll be right back. I'm gonna get the video camera.
Okay. Honey, what are you doing? I thought you were gonna go get the camera.
Julie! No!
Welcome to Rewind, a closer look, where we dig into forgotten action and sci-fi movies and try to figure out what exactly the filmmakers thought was going to happen. Today we're talking about 1997's Dark Drive, a low-budget, late-90s sci-fi thriller that's playing with Matrix-style ideas 2 years before anyone had sunglasses and trench coats. It trips over its own ideas and then decided to sprint headfirst into existential madness anyway. It's a movie about virtual prisons, digital exile, shadowy corporations, and identities so fractured that even the main character seems confused about what his name is at any given moment. There are some genuinely cool concepts here, some unintentionally hilarious moments, and just enough ambition to make you wonder how this didn't either become a cult classic or get quietly erased from reality altogether. The cast is actually doing more heavy lifting than you'd expect here. Ken Olandt plays our very confused lead, and he sells the emotional whiplash surprisingly well. Grief, paranoia, and existential VR nonsense all rolled into one. Claire Stansfield is Tilda, and she's easily the most compelling presence in the movie, leaning hard into that dangerous, unpredictable energy the role needs. And then there's Julie Benz as our lead's wife, Julie, a familiar face from Buffy, Angel, and later Dexter, popping up early enough to make you go, "Oh wow, she's in this," before the movie immediately puts her through the emotional ringer. This episode might be a little hard to follow, and honestly, that's not on me. Let's get into it. The movie opens with a voiceover explaining a virtual reality prison where people's minds are separated from their bodies, their physical forms are disposed of, and they're sentenced to live entire lifetimes inside a place that doesn't actually exist. You can experience decades in seconds, which, depending on the day, sounds either horrifying or extremely efficient. This digital nightmare is called the Matrix.
Whoa.
Yes, the Matrix, and it's run by a corporation named Zircon. And yes, this is before the real Matrix movie, which immediately raises some questions. Someone, either a person or a company, the movie isn't totally sure, wants a backdoor into this system so they can pull people back out. The guy narrating all this stares at a screen and mutters something about redemption, which I think means he goes into the Matrix to rescue people who were wrongly imprisoned, or possibly to kill them. Hard to say. Roll opening credits. During the credits, we see a man being chased by a group of armed guys, and one of them casually pulls out a gun firing explosive rounds and just deletes him. No setup, no explanation, just a reminder that this movie is not easing us into anything. We cut to a computer screen explaining that an agent named Tilda has been exposed as a double agent, convicted of treason and sentenced to exile, which in this world means getting dumped into the Matrix. They march her into the room and, surprise, it's a woman. A few guys in suits show up and Tilda tries to renegotiate her sentence the only way this movie knows how. She grabs Matthew, the guy who authorized her exile, and plants a rough, aggressive kiss on him before promising she'll see him in hell. Subtle stuff. The guards strap Tilda into a chair that slides upward toward the ceiling as a countdown starts. Honestly, it's kinda cool. Bright lights, dramatic humming, and then, just like that, she's exiled into the Matrix. As everyone stands around reflecting on what a shame it is to lose such a good agent, someone drops a Beauty and the Beast comment, which raises the important question, is that supposed to be a compliment, an insult, or just badly written dialogue? Before anyone can dwell on it, an alarm starts blaring. It goes on for an uncomfortably long time before someone finally reacts. Turns out someone is remotely trying to log into the Zircon system. And that's when we cut to the hacker. And honestly, this might be one of the greatest hacking scenes ever put on film. We cut to a guy in a suit stepping out of a tiny grocery store in Royville, Washington. The movie helpfully slaps a date and time on the screen, April 18th, 2001, 14:31 hours, which immediately makes me nervous because I really hope I'm not expected to remember any of that. Suit guy walks down the street carrying a bag of groceries like a completely normal human being, while two little girls play with a ball outside his house. One of the girls accidentally throws the ball toward him. When they ask for it back, he casually tosses it into the street. Real sociopath energy right out of the gate. Inside the house, we learn this is where the hacker is hiding out. Suit guy brought him food, and the two bond over how much they hate the small town and the terrible groceries. Suit guy tells him to hurry up and pull the exile program so they can get out of there. Cue the hacking montage. Screens glitch, code flies, things beep angrily, and then everything goes very wrong. A massive electrical blast erupts, slamming Suit guy across the room and frying the hacker on the spot. Outside, a huge portal opens in the sky, forming a glowing ball of energy in the middle of the street that starts blasting electricity everywhere. One of the little girls from earlier stands way too close to it and calmly says it looks like angels. Spoiler, it's not. Suit guy gets zapped and dies. The girl's father runs toward her to help and immediately gets vaporized too, and then the girl herself vanishes into the light. Just like that, the energy fades, the street goes quiet, and whatever just happened clearly wasn't supposed to happen at all. The next morning, a convoy of dark SUVs rolls into town. Leading the charge is Mustache Guy, the same dude from the opening voiceover, along with a full squad of Men in Black knockoffs who all look like they exclusively drink black coffee and bad news. Mustache Guy and two suits head into the hacker's house, where they find the charred remains and calmly conclude that he must have breached the network, which is a wild understatement considering half the town got electrocuted by a sky portal. Apparently, all of that was caused by a computer program. Zircon does not mess around. Mustache Guy is visibly irritated and says Zircon must have sent in a termination team before he arrived. Outside, the other agents have found the only survivor from the incident. Mustache Guy walks over, stares at him in complete silence for a few uncomfortable seconds, then just turns around, gets back in his SUV, and leaves without saying a word. No explanation, no concern. One of the remaining suits immediately calls Matthew, the corporate guy we met earlier, and informs him there's a survivor. Matthew doesn't hesitate for a second. He tells them to kill him, and they do. Happily. Just like that, loose ends tied up, problem solved, and whatever Zircon is running here is already way darker than advertised. Back at the Zircon complex, Mustache Guy confronts Matthew about sending in a termination team before he arrived. Matthew denies it completely and flips the blame, pointing out that Mustache Guy, who Matthew calls Falcon, was technically first on the scene. Yes, Falcon. Incredible name. The two argue a bit more, with Falcon insisting the whole program is spiraling out of control and that he wants nothing more to do with it. He storms off dramatically. Outside, Falcon runs into a woman who asks if he's okay. He tells her he quit, and she immediately looks concerned, not emotionally, but logistically. As in, are you sure they'll even let you do that? Which is not reassuring. They get into his SUV and drive off together. Who is this woman? No idea. The movie is in no hurry to explain. Back inside the facility, Matthew takes a phone call from someone we don't see or hear. He calmly talks about how successful the town incident was and drops some vague, ominous lines that confirm one thing. Whatever Zircon is doing, it's going exactly according to plan. At Falcon's house, we finally learn who that mystery woman is. She's his wife, Julie. Why she was waiting for him at work in the parking lot earlier. Completely unclear, but we'll move past it. We also learn that Falcon is possibly a code name and his real name is Steven.
I am Steve.
What a downgrade. Steven is working on his computer when Julie immediately starts a fight about him never being around, how he said he quit, and how he promised to stop drinking. You know, classic movie marriage stuff. What I can't get past, though, is the fact that all of Steven's computers and equipment are set up outside on the porch, just raw, exposed electronics. The pre-laptop era was truly unhinged. Julie storms off down a trail. Steven broods for a second, then chases after her, nearly tripping as he runs past the camera, which is always reassuring for our action hero. He reaches a clearing overlooking the ocean where Julie is suddenly waiting with a blanket and a fully assembled picnic basket, which is impressive, considering she didn't have any of that when she ran off. Steven walks up and Julie drops the big reveal. She's pregnant. They smile. The argument is instantly forgiven, and Steven says he'll be right back to grab his video camera. Buddy, have you never seen a movie? There is no way she will be okay when you come back. Steven barely makes it 15 feet before noticing something in the bushes. He turns back toward Julie, and then the picnic basket explodes.
You serious?
Yes, an explosive picnic basket. Steven gets launched by the blast while Julie very much does not survive her lunch. I knew she was doomed, just not via Looney Tunes assassination. It's dark, it's absurd, and somehow it's both creative and unintentionally hilarious. Welcome to Dark Drive. As Steve lies unconscious, the movie hard cuts to a completely different scene. A group of men in black chasing a mystery guy whose face is kept entirely in shadow. These guys are terrible shots. Like stormtrooper level bad. After a bit of running, the mystery man casually stops, cuts a tracking device out of his own body and tosses it aside like it's no big deal. Naturally, every ground unit and a helicopter immediately converge on the tracker he just threw away. Classic. Matthew arrives on the scene and tells everyone he wants the mystery guy alive. They search the area and, surprise, only find the discarded tracker. Matthew announces he's heading back to the Zircon complex, and sure enough, that's exactly where the mystery guy already is. The mystery man gets into a brief firefight with some guards, reaches the exile chair room, and powers it up. As Matthew and the men in black force the door, the mystery guy shoots the lock, sealing them out, and straps himself into the chair. He exiles himself just as they break in. Matthew responds by shooting the guy's body so he can't come back, which immediately raises three questions. First, the last time someone was exiled, the chair already killed their body automatically. Second, the opening monologue explicitly said, "No one has ever come back from the Matrix." And third, didn't he say he wanted him alive? So, either this is a precaution or the movie already forgot its own rules. Either way, we move on. Steve is not doing great. We're firmly in the sad guy alone in the dark phase. He's drinking, smoking, and staring at a photo of his dead wife, which for some reason is stored in a CD case. Sure, saxophone music kicks in, he's holding a gun, and the movie briefly flirts with the idea of suicide, before deciding, nah, we've got a plot to get to. Steve hops onto his porch-based VR computer setup, because apparently in the 90s, the best place for all your electronics was outside, and we finally learn his full name, Steve Falcon. Falcon was his last name. Cool. Only took about 30 minutes for the movie to fully commit to who its main character actually is. We get some very on-brand 90s CGI as Steve appears to be watching VR home movies of himself and his wife, which might explain why her photo was on a CD earlier. Maybe? The movie doesn't clarify, but at this point we're just going with it. Then Matthew shows up at Steve's house and lets himself in, which Steve immediately clocks. Matthew explains that the program Steve created has been hacked, and that big explosion at the town earlier, Yeah, that was connected. Steve responds with a very reasonable, "not my problem," and tells him to get out. That's when Matthew drops the real hook. He knows who killed Julie. He blames an operator called Shadowman, the same guy who exiled himself earlier. Reason? Because he was supposedly after Steve and his wife. Okay, sure. But then Matthew also heavily implies that Zircon itself was responsible for Julie's death and the attempt on Steve's life. So now we're juggling revenge, corporate conspiracy, and grief all at once. Matthew then reveals they've reprogrammed the exile chair so someone can actually come back. He wants Steve to go into the Matrix, kill Shadowman, and destroy the other chair on the inside, because Shadowman apparently coded himself access to it. Which the movie treats as extremely bad news, even though it never fully explains why. But at this point, Steve's in because revenge, guilt, and unresolved trauma are apparently valid mission briefings. They all head back to the Zircon complex and start prepping Steve for his exile. He's given a new name for inside the system, Jones. Because of course he is. Another alias, another identity. The movie is very committed to never letting us settle on one name for this guy. They hand him a code on a disc and tell him they will program it into the Matrix for him, which is apparently what he'll need to use the chair on the other side. Is that how he gets back? Is it a key, a password, a magic floppy of destiny? It's extremely vague, and the movie does not seem interested in clarifying. Bright light, CGI transition screens, and just like that, Steve is gone. Jones lands inside the Matrix, or whatever legally distinct from the Matrix place this is. Everything is grimy and hazy, bike gangs cruise through the streets, and Jones walks straight toward the camera in slow motion like he just entered a Cyberpunk music video. Welcome to digital hell, population, you. Jones heads to a nearby bar where a doorman basically materializes in front of him like he spawned in late. After some completely irrelevant banter, the guy lets him inside. Jones walks up to the bar and, surprise, the bartender and the doorman are the same guy, because why not? Jones orders a whiskey, a VR whiskey, which raises a lot of questions but mostly confirms that yes, this man is committed to his alcoholism across all planes of existence. He pulls out his code disc and tells the bartender he'll trade it for Shadowman's location. Before anything can happen, a group of guys at a nearby table suddenly shoot the man they were just sitting with. No build-up, no explanation, just murder. They casually stroll over, notice the disc, and offer to buy it. Jones refuses and calls them middlemen, which deeply offends them. They leave in a huff, like cyberpunk henchmen whose feelings were hurt. The bartender quietly warns Jones to watch out for them. Jones downs another drink and heads for the exit, completely unaware that a guy in the corner has been watching him the whole time and is already on the phone calling someone, because of course he is. Once outside, Jones is immediately jumped by the same two guys from the bar. They beat him down and steal the disc, which at first feels like a failure, until it becomes clear this was the plan all along. Jones lets them take it so he can follow them to whoever they're selling it to, hoping that person is Shadowman. It's actually a solid move, risky but solid. The two thugs stop at a door and ring the bell, nervously talking about how they really don't like dealing with the woman inside. And sure enough, when the door opens, it's Tilda, the same woman from the opening exile scene. They show her the disc and she immediately inspects it, only to discover a hidden tracker program. And I use hidden very loosely because it's basically a big red flashing box that says tracker program in bold letters. Tilda questions the men about where they got the disc. They answer honestly. She shoots one of them anyway, and nothing happens. And that's when it gets strange because up to this point, people absolutely do die in the Matrix. We've already seen guys get shot in the bar and drop for good. So now we're left wondering, why is this guy suddenly immune? Is he special? Is Tilda using a different gun? Or did the movie just quietly change the rules without telling us? Outside, Jones, who apparently planned everything, is using a handheld device to locate the tracker. Which raises another question: how did they get this into the Matrix? Earlier, the movie was very clear that he could only bring in what Zircon specifically programmed for him, like the disc. But sure, let's just add a mystery tracker gadget to the pile. Jones finds the disc lying on the ground just as Tilda steps outside. The two finally come face to face. She's immediately suspicious, grills him about the tracker, and they argue over motives. Jones admits he's looking for Shadowman, and then, out of nowhere, something slams into Tilda. Just a blur and a sound effect.
Shadowman. What the hell is even that?
Chaos breaks out. Jones starts fighting Tilda's men, throws one to the ground, drops what looks like a grenade, and jumps through a window, which somehow ejects him from the Matrix entirely. I thought he could only come back with the other chair. Don't ask how. It just does. Something goes wrong during the transfer. Someone's trying to stop it, but they still manage to pull Jones out, which means he's Steve again, briefly. Matthew mutters something vague about an energy surge, tells him to hurry up, and immediately sends him right back in. That's it. That was the whole interruption. Cool. Back in the Matrix, Jones again. He heads straight to the bar and orders another whiskey because apparently that's his default save point. He asks the bartender where Tilda is, and wouldn't you know it, she's sitting right there with the same guy we saw earlier making phone calls. Jones sits down and tries to negotiate for the disc. Immediately, everyone starts double-crossing everyone else. The guy gets up to leave, Tilda shoots him without hesitation, and now Jones finally agrees to her terms. She gets the disc, and in return, she sets up a meeting with Shadowman. They head back to Tilda's hideout to wait for Shadowman, or whatever the actual plan is supposed to be. While they're waiting, Tilda suddenly starts undoing her top and kissing Jones. And despite the fact that his wife and unborn child literally exploded yesterday, he completely falls for it and then is immediately clocked in the head by one of her goons. We get a quick montage of black and white flashes, and Jones wakes up tied to a hook like a piece of meat. They've taken the disc, and Tilda checks it, only to discover the access code is missing. Turns out the disc is useless without it, and only Jones knows the code. Oops. So naturally, the torture starts. Tilda loads a revolver with a single bullet, spins the chamber, and pulls the trigger. Click. She does it again. Click. And again. Nothing. Meanwhile, Jones is quietly using a shard of broken glass from the bottle they smashed on his head to cut himself loose. He finally yells that he'll give them the code, buying just enough time. Tilda pauses and casually remarks that she thought he'd hold out longer. Jones immediately jumps off the hook, kicks Tilda in the head, and starts throwing hands. One goon grabs Tilda's gun as Jones goes for his. The goon fires. Click. Jones fires back and drops him. He then beats the hell out of the last guy, hangs him by his scarf on the hook, and leaves him choking there. Jones runs for the door, throws it open, and it's a portal back to the real world. Sure, why not? Back in the chair, I'm once again wondering if anyone on the outside is going to give him more instructions than hurry up this time. Well, somehow it gets even less clear. The machine malfunctions, or gets hacked, or just decides to do its own thing. Jones briefly becomes Steve again, then immediately slides back into Jones inside the Matrix. And that's when he sees the little girl with the ball from the very beginning of the movie, the one who got sucked into the glowing energy orb. He sees her, gives a very reasonable
Right.
And instead of asking literally any follow-up questions, he just turns around and goes back to the bar. The bartender pours him another drink like this is all completely normal. At this point, I'm getting some serious Shining vibes. The girl with the ball feels like a discount version of the Hallway Twins.
Come and play with us, Daddy.
And the whole bar situation has that "you've always been the caretaker" energy.
But you are the caretaker. You've always been the caretaker.
And structurally, it starts feeling somewhat like 12 Monkeys, not with time travel, but with the constant in and out trips blurring reality and non-reality. What's real? What's VR? Who knows anymore? Also, is Tilda supposed to be Brad Pitt in this analogy?
Two of us here are actually mentally ill. I'm not saying you're not mentally ill. For all I know, you're crazy as a loon.
I genuinely can't tell. Jones wanders deeper into the bar where a band is playing, and suddenly his wife is on stage singing. Which might explain why her photo was on a CD case earlier. Was she a singer this whole time? Sure, why not? She stops mid-song, walks over, and they start kissing. Smash cut to a bedroom where they're hooking up, exactly like the VR home videos he was watching earlier. Then Tilda walks in with yet another new goon, since Jones already killed the last two, and Jones instantly vanishes. This time he doesn't get sent back to the real world, he just respawns outside the bar again. When he goes back inside, it's a completely different bartender. Jones asks what happened to the other guy, and the new one casually says he had to go meet someone outside, gesturing toward the door. Then he says Jones's name in a very wrong way.
Mr. Jones?
Jones turns to leave, and when he looks back, the bar is just gone. No walls, no lights, nothing. It's actually a pretty cool visual, especially with the push zoom, and just like that, he respawns again. Slow motion walk and all. Jones stumbles across the bartender slumped against the wall, bloody and barely alive. He asks where his wife went, and the bartender weakly tells him Shadowman took her. Jones asks where, and the guy hits him with the classic non-answer.
You should know. You've always known.
Then he dies, and straight up disappears. Cool. Helpful. Love that. Right on cue, Tilda and her brand new replacement goon burst in behind him and open fire, missing every shot, of course. We then see that Tilda has Jones's wife, and the chase is on through what looks like underground tunnels or catacombs, with gunfire echoing everywhere. At this point, I genuinely started questioning whether Tilda is Shadowman, or have I just been mishearing the name this whole time? Is it Shadowman or Shadowmam?
Yeah, that's not funny.
The movie is not interested in clarifying. Her new goon starts demanding the access code and fires explosive rounds at Jones, a lot of them, narrowly missing every time. Eventually, Jones dives out Max Payne style and fires back, and we get easily the coolest shot in the movie, a slow-motion bullet that sprouts little wing-like fins mid-flight before slamming into the goon. It's straight out of Wanted and honestly rules. Jones keeps chasing Tilda and his wife and finally catches up. They pause long enough to negotiate. Tilda offers his wife in exchange for the code. She even calls him Falcon. Which immediately raises the question, if everyone in here knows who he really is, why was he using an alias at all? She then drops the big reveal. Steve Falcon is already dead, and he's trapped in the Matrix forever, just like everyone else. And Steve asks how she even knows who he is. She calmly tells him,
"Everybody knows who you are, except you."
Steve hands over the disc. Tilda loads it, sees it's incomplete, and without hesitation shoots Steve's wife. Steve immediately shoots Tilda, and then Shadowman steps out of the darkness. Steve asks who he is, and we cut to a flashback of the picnic explosion, revealing that Steve himself was the one who broke into the Zircon complex. Shadowman is Steve, or a version of him, or the real him, or the him that actually understands what's happening.
I am Steve.
Steve activates the code and everything collapses inward. The movie rewinds all the way back to the moment Matthew shot Shadowman's body in the VR chair. Matthew calmly reports to his boss that Steve succeeded, fixed the program, and that the system is now online and running flawlessly. Then that glowing electrical orb starts forming over Steve's body. Matthew mutters, "God help us all." Cut to Steve standing in a tunnel. The little girl with the ball appears again. He asks her if they're dead. She replies,
Of course you are. What do you think?
Steve's wife walks toward him. They kiss. Bright white light. The little girl smiles and says,
I love this part.
Fade out. End. So, yeah. This one is kind of cool and kind of lame at the same time. There are some genuinely interesting ideas here that feel way ahead of their time. The bartender gives off strong shining vibes. The whole VR prison concept feels suspiciously close to The Matrix before the Reeves version came out. There's a straight-up Wanted-style bullet time shot, and the constant bouncing between realities has a real 12 Monkeys energy to it. So did The Matrix and Wanted rip this movie off? Probably not. But it's funny how close some of the ideas get. That said, the movie is trying very hard to be deep and thought-provoking, and that's where it starts to trip over itself. The big reveal that Shadowman is Steve feels like one of those moments where the writers high-fived each other and went, "Whoa, what if the Shadowman was Steve the whole time?" without stopping to think about the avalanche of questions that creates. So let me get this straight. Steve goes into the Matrix to kill Shadowman, who is also Steve, because Shadowman went into the Matrix after his wife died, but then Steve number 2 goes into the Matrix to stop himself from breaking the program? Cool, sure, totally clear. Then there's everything else the movie just never explains. How did Steve's wife get into the Matrix in the first place? If Shadowman was Steve and working with Tilda, why kidnap his own wife? What exactly is that glowing energy orb? How did it create a portal in a random town? Why did the little girl get sucked into it? If Steve had to be specifically programmed to bring a disc into the Matrix, how did he also have a gun and a tracking device? Nobody programmed those. And what was that weird flash that knocked Tilda back earlier? Magic, code, vibes. It's just question after question, and the movie clearly has no interest in answering any of them. Still, I can't totally hate it. There's ambition here. Messy ambition, confusing ambition. We didn't think this through, ambition, but ambition nonetheless. Dark Drive feels like a movie reaching for something big, even if it doesn't quite know how to land it. And honestly, I'll take that over something boring any day. Hit like, subscribe, and comment below if you're real, or if you're just another copy stuck in the system like Steve. And until next time, be kind and rewind.
Hey, you big jerk, give me back my ball. Hey, that's not very nice, mister. Asshole.